Welcome back to the channel, guys, and in this video we're doing a recap and review of Married at First Sight, Unfiltered, Ice Cold. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you'll be notified every time we post. If you like the video, smash that like button, and also feel free to drop a comment down in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's jump into this video. So Jamie gets unfiltered with Erik, Jake, and Dr. VIVIANA. And they're talking about jealousy, forming deeper connections, and troubling dating histories. So they start off first talking about the clip with Erik and Virginia and how they were going on about the passwords and everything. And then they start talking about the social media aspect, as you guys remember, with whether or not you should like ex's pictures and things like that. And of course, Erik was like, no, it doesn't make any sense if you going to like their stuff, and you shouldn't even be friends with them anyway, you know. And of course, Virginia was like, I don't know if I can decide whether or not I'm going to get annoyed. And of course, he made the snide, remark, you do get annoyed, But honestly, let me know what you think about this, guys. I mean, there are some people who are friends with their exes. It's meaningless and you like their post, and others, it's an issue. So let me know what you think. So Erik was asked, do you get jealous easily? And that's what, Jamie asked him. And he was like, well, I don't know. When it comes to me, like with exes, and especially the ones that I've dealt with in my past, I went through that type of stuff, and I didn't mean to come across a little strong. I wasn't trying to be mean, but, that's a flaw that he's working on. And Jake chimed in and said, you're just trying to say things to kind of, sort things out, but you have to gauge a person when it comes to this. And Jamie asked Dr. VIVIANA what's her take on the clip. She said, especially being that, of course, they're new in this and Virginia doesn't know, how they're going to communicate these things, and he doesn't know her friends as well. He was just basically saying, let's try to guard our relationship. And it came out sounding more of like a command. And, you don't want that to happen. You want to give feedback and let her know that, you're happy, but she don't know where you're coming from, So I don't know, guys, whatever that makes sense. Again, let me know your thoughts. And then Jamie asked Erik, why do you think this keep coming up so much in the marriage? And, he said, we're coming from two different worlds. She hasn't had a serious relationship in a long time. And I was just in a marriage, but I've been single for 3 years. So I'm jumping into a marriage as well. So I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not saying that I know everything, but I know it's nothing more than, what I want to do, which is to make this work. And I'm giving it 100%. And we need to just continue to communicate and talk about it. And, we'll get there. And he said he'll work on this as well. So now Jamie moves on to Jake and talks about the sit down that Jake and Haley had with Dr. VIVIANA, where there was this steamy homework assignment where, she wanted them to imagine building a marriage and they were in their bedroom. She wanted them to kiss goodmorning and kiss goodnight and really think about that connection and how it starts from the minute you open your eyes. And the thing about it is, Jake asked her, is this something that Haley was going to be comfortable with? And, she said, I'm not going to lie, it's probably going to be uncomfortable for me at first. But, she said that she'll try to do it. And, Dr. VIVIANA said you guys need to behave in a way that you always wanted to in a married life now that you're married. Let me know what you think about what this interaction was about, guys. So, Jamie asked Jake, how do you feel about what Dr. VIVIANA told you guys and the advice to kiss every morning and good night? And he said, well, I think it's a good thing. You have to attempt to do everything you can to make this work. But he said it's like putting pressure on her, and we're going to have to play it by ear. And then Jamie asked about the attraction issue. Are you attracted to Haley? And he said, well, it wasn't a natural attraction right out the gate, but she started to grow on him, especially in Vegas. But again, we also saw the falling out that they had about whether it was Haley's BS versus the Haley that he knew for the first 2 days. And so Jamie asked Dr. Viviana about Jake and Haley's chemistry. And she said, that she was taken aback by the walls that were being put up. She was hopeful that, they were going to be proactive and maybe making this work. But, the thing is, she tends to be uncomfortable with everything. And she was like, I know where this was going to go. So Jamie asked Jake about what he thought about the meetup with Dr. Viviana and how he was feeling. And he said, I was actually hoped that this was going to work and change the behavior and maybe help with the connection. But he also had those same feelings when Pastor Cal met with them, and it didn't change much. So he said, I guess we'll just have to see and just play it by ear. And, of course, Dr. Viviana also met up with Haley on a one-on-one type of conversation, which we did get to see. And this is where Haley was saying about her response to the questionnaire that Dr. Viviana put up, that she tends to be picky and she pick a guy apart, and then when she get to know them, she beat herself up rather for being so picky and picking him apart, and she promised to give the next guy a real chance. Dr. Viviana asked, do you feel like, of course, you're picking him apart? And she says, yeah, a little bit, and he's definitely trying to change his lifestyle for me, but it makes her feel bad that he's doing too much. Jake's thought on that was that, she was fairly accurate. I think she made some decisions about me during the wedding ceremony and then just kind of stuck to it, trying to see like where we can go. And, he was hoping that there could be something more. It really didn't change. I think she decided that I'm a certain way with everything universally, and I don't really prescribe to those things. I'm all over the place with a lot of different things, he said. And then she posed the question, meaning Jamie, to Erik about, his marriage with Virginia. And, Virginia found herself changing, here and there for him. But the biggest thing is the passwords for him. But he was joking. But he said that, one of the biggest things is the single lifestyle is trying to adjust, and all of those things we're still struggling with. And, they're trying to figure out the respect level of communication for sure. So Jamie started talking about Jake's 80s decor and fashion and how far is he willing to go to adapt and to change the Haley's lifestyle? And Jake was like, I don't see as much of an issue. He said he's kind of trolling his future self, just like wearing something really stupid sometime. And then I get those pictures and laugh his butt off. And he's like, it's not a big deal. It's just some things. And Dr. Viviana was like, I think it's funny because Jake is in his own world and trying to entertain himself. And I just say that, your wife is like, what are you doing? And, he think it's funny, but he's just going to be as weird as he want to be. And, it's funny and it's cool. Now, Jamie was like, for Erik, someone who's hit it off with his wife immediately, you still have some differences that you need to work on. So they brought up the clip where Dr. Viviana was speaking to Erik and Virginia about their difference in belief systems and about kids. And one of the biggest things is, Erik saying that he don't know even if she wanted kids, that she's 50-50. And he said, well, if she decides that she don't want kids, I'm out and I'm done. And of course, Dr. Viviana was looking kind of side-eyed at that. And so Jamie asked Erik, when you say that, if she don't want kids, you done, do you think that statement was harsh? And he said, absolutely. I didn't say it in the right manner. However, I do, he do feel strong about having his own children. So he was like, yeah, I just do. And Dr. Viviana was asked by Jamie, what do you think about what Erik said to his wife about the kids in the marriage? And she said, well, if she doesn't want kids, I mean, that's a deal breaker. And that's something that we consider in all of our matches. So all of a sudden, if she's changing her tune and tell her husband she doesn't want kids, yeah, she have a right to say so. But it's definitely something that's not going to fit into each other's life plan. Now, when it comes to Jake's marriage, Jamie said it's all about compromise. Do you think that you and Haley are putting in equal effort into the marriage? And Jake was like, well, what I get from Haley is that she doesn't want to engage in certain ways. And I can just, at this point, just fall back and try to look for an opportunity to relate to her. And that's all I can really do. And then Jamie asked Erik, you said it yourself that you and Virginia had an instant connection. Do you think that that connection is strong enough to get you through your differences? And Erik was like, I don't know if it's enough. There's a way to meet in the middle for certain things. And there's others that's kind of like, you can't. And Dr. Viviana was like, you cannot sort of have a kid or not. And he said exactly. And kids is something that he wants in his future. So now Jamie moves on to Jake again about the conversation that they had last week about sleeping in the same bed for the first time. And, that was so awkward. I don't know if you guys, of course, you guys, if you saw last week's episode, you remember this. But it was awkward. She was on one side of the bed. He was on the other side of the bed. He was talking about spooning and a good night kiss, and she was like, no, I don't know, and I'll let you know if I'm ready for something like that. And Jake was like, well, I'm just putting it out there, and just let me know when you're ready. And they end up giving each other a fist bump. So there's no connection with those two. But Jake chimed in and was like, he was like, look, I was joking right there. I was trying to get a rise out of her, but I don't even think she realized I was joking about spooning and everything, And the energy in that bedroom was ice cold. And that's when you see Erik trying to give him his jacket because it was like frigid. It was worse than frigid. And, he said it actually made the situation worse. And this is where Dr. Viviana, and, she made the statement, I think just being honest, it definitely forces you to face whatever is happening in that moment. And, Jamie asked Erik, well, what do you think about your bedtimes with Virginia? And he stopped blushing. He was like, well, I'm like, really, Jamie, do you want me to answer that? But he was like, no, it's a great sign for us because that's where so far has been the best time for us, where she lets her walls down and told me things that has happened to her in her past. And it have me understanding a lot more where she's coming from with these things. And every time she does, it makes our relationship so much better. And Jake was like, wait a minute, there's no role playing going on? Jake is a little freak. He funny. But he said, I'm just kidding. And, Erik was like, it's not easy. So we also now move on to the clip about the difficult conversation that Erik and Virginia had about the cheating thing. And this is where Erik is saying that it had happened to him in almost every single relationship he's been in. And when it actually happens, it breaks his heart. And he just don't understand it. And it just really breaks his heart. And Virginia, of course, she acknowledged it by saying, I'm sorry that this has happened to you so many times. I know in the beginning about what you expected about me, that I'm about out with other people and things like that. But, I'm here. And he's like, it has nothing to do with you. It's about the trust issues that I have. And the fact that they communicated finally is just great. And, Erik said that it definitely has affected him in future relationships or even this relationship with his exes cheating on him in the past because it brings up his insecurities. He's not looking for a pity party or sympathy from anyone, but that stuff has just been kind of hard. And Dr. Viviana jumps in and she says, I'm glad you were able to share that with her. There's no excuse for someone betraying someone else in that way. Every time you have to rebuild your heart, rebuild yourself in the relationship, and it's less and less structurally sound every time it happens. So I think, that this would help her to start to see some of those commands that he's giving her are more like these are responses from my past. So she asked Jake about his exes and betrayals, and he said, yeah, that's something that also has affected me in my relationships as well. It makes me more cautious moving forward. And he said you can tell when somebody has bad intentions, whether they're non-threatening to your wife or your girlfriend or not. And Dr. Viviana was like, yeah, the ladies can see that too. And, Jamie asked for Dr. Viviana's advice for couples in this situation. She said when it comes to not letting your past affect your future, it's so easier said than done. It is difficult to not have it play a role. But I think she said, being conscious of how it affects you is probably the only thing that, you can do, and then try to get help especially professional help, if you can't let go of it. Jamie now shifts everything back to Erik. Do you think that Virginia has a better understanding and you two have a better understanding of each other after this conversation? And he said, absolutely. Every time we talk about our paths, it's nothing but good things for us, and it helps us move forward. So now they move into this clip that we saw, and it's the clip last week that we saw of Chris and Paige. And this is where Chris says, Mercedes 6 years ago got into a car accident and hadn't driven since then. He bought her a brand new Benz as transportation. And, why a new car? Because he said, I'm bringing a king or queen into this world and I need them to ride in the chariot. And, a lot of people responded to that, of course. And Jake and Erik was also asked by Jamie. Jake chimed in real quick. He called Chris a dumbass and said, you got her a Benz, dude. You married to somebody. Get her a Cobalt if you want her to drive, or Ford Taurus. You're telling your wife right now you don't give two bleeps about her, and you're going to get with this girl after the show and when it's all over. And this particular part of this episode sparked the conversations that we saw on social media, because a lot of people was wondering what Chris was talking about when these comments showed up when he posted it on his Instagram account. Because if you don't watch Unfiltered, you wouldn't know where this was coming from. And when I watched Unfiltered and saw what Jake's responses was, and then when Chris posted this to his IG account, I kind of connected the dots. And that's where that's coming from. I mean, if you want to pause the video and read what he had to say, you can. I'm not going to read all of that. But that's what that was about. So just to answer that question. So then Jamie asked Erik what his thoughts was, and Erik is like, you know what? I don't even know what to say. I mean, I want to stay out of their stuff and their marriage after the honeymoon. And Productions was like, that's not good enough. So you know what? They ended up showing clips of what happened. Since Erik didn't chime in on his thoughts on what that was about in their relationship. And they brought up the 3 clips, the one with the ATV, the dinner with the argument and everything. But he did say, that he see Paige as the strongest woman that he's ever met. If I was buying someone else a car, I would expect Virginia to not speak to me again. It's unbelievable. He said that he don't understand. There's just so many red flags. But it seems like there's always something else that's going to come. So he kind of wanted to stay out of it, and just pretty much focus on what's going on with their marriage. He was pretty much over and done after the honeymoon when it came to the marriage of Chris and Paige. Dr. Viviana's response to all of this is that, what she didn't like is the fact that he waited after to tell her about what he did in buying the car. And she said that's not the way it works when you're trying to build trust with someone. It just continues to compound one blow after the other blow in this relationship. So then Jamie shifted over to Jake. It's now a month. Do you all feel like, you've been in this relationship for longer than a month? And Jake was like, sometimes it feel like it is longer than a month, but at the same time, we don't really know each other. So, maybe it's something we can figure out, but it's always kind of, I got to hold out and see. And with Eric, he says, it goes back and forth. We have great moments. It feels like when we go into these, I'm like, I don't know this person when we have those struggles. But we both feel the same way about it, and it varies, and we can only do what we can to keep it going. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, hit that like button and subscribe. But first, I have to do post notification shout out. If you want to be shouted out, drop a comment. I will see you and shout you out. The first one goes to Jazz90 Nicole. I'm glad you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for engaging in the channel. The next one goes to Melinda Barker. Thank you as well for your comment and engaging in the channel. And last but not least, the last shout out goes to JLLJ. Thank you so much for engaging in the channel as well. I do appreciate it. So until the next video, and I'm glad you're enjoying these unfiltered recaps, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you soon.